Hi, my name is Katie Coppens, and I'm the author of the Acadia Files chapter book series, which is published by Tilbury House. There are 4 books in this series, which are each set over a different season, and I'm going to read you Chapter 1 of Book 1, Summer Science. Chapter 1 is called The Missing Blueberries. Acadia wakes up to a gentle summer breeze blowing through her window. She puts her messy curls in a ponytail and runs down her house's creaky old stairs. Acadia dashes past her dad, who is sitting at the kitchen table reading the newspaper. "Morning, Dad," she hollers as the screen door slams behind her. She races past her mom, who is watering the vegetable garden, and shouts, "Morning, Mom! I'm going to check on my berries." "I hope there's enough for blueberry pancakes," Acadia's mom answers with a smile. Pancakes are a Sunday morning tradition in Acadia's house. She's been waiting to pick her berries until they are so juicy and sweet that they burst with flavor in her mouth. As Acadia runs behind the garage to look at her 4 blueberry bushes, she is thinking that this is the morning when all the work of planting the bushes, watering them on hot summer days, and weeding them will finally pay off. Today is the day she'll get to eat her first handful of delicious blueberries. "No!" Acadia shouts as she looks at her bushes. The family's golden retriever, Baxter, lets out a sharp bark and races toward her. "Acadia, are you okay?" her mom asks as she puts down the garden hose. Acadia moves from one blueberry bush to the next, chanting, "No, no, 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 no!" With Acadia's final no still echoing through the yard, Acadia's dad opens the porch door. "Any chance you want to take this one?" Acadia's mom asks. Acadia's dad nods. Still in his pajamas, he walks toward the blueberry bushes. "My blueberries are gone. Yesterday I had so many blueberries, and now there are no good ones left. There are only these little ones that are nowhere near ready to be picked." Acadia crawls on her hands and knees, searching for any sign of dark blue on the ground beneath the bushes. "Here's one," her dad offers, pointing at a blueberry hidden among the leaves. Without thinking, Acadia picks it off the bush and pops it into her mouth. "Not fair. It's so good. Where'd they all go?" She sits up, puts her head in her hands, then instantly looks up. "I know who did it. It was Joshua." "Acadia, you don't know that." "Yes, I do know that. He's so mean." "Acadia, you have no proof. You can't just accuse someone without—" "Dad, you know he stole them. He can see the berries from his backyard," Acadia says, pointing to the low split rail fence. Acadia's dad sits down beside her. "You can't just accuse someone without evidence." "How do I get evidence? He ate all the evidence." "You can start by talking to him about it." "No way, I'm not talking to him. I have a better idea. I'm going to use my binoculars to watch the bushes. When new blueberries start to grow and he comes to eat them, I'm going to catch him in the act." "Or you could talk to him, and I'm going to paint a sign that says 'Don't pick.' That way he's stealing and breaking the law." "Or you could," her dad says again, but then he pauses because it's clear that Acadia's mind is set. "Just clean up the paint after you're done." Acadia stands up and says, "I can't believe him. He ruins everything." "I know you wanted blueberry pancakes, but how about if I put chocolate chips in them instead? Will that help a little?" Acadia nods and brushes the dirt off her striped pajamas. Excited about her plan, she rushes past her mom, who is walking toward her. Acadia eagerly walks into the open garage and starts looking for an old wooden board and some bright red paint. "Acadia, what are you doing?" her mom asks. "I'm going to catch Joshua stealing my berries." "How could Joshua steal your berries?" By being his usual horrible self." "No, I mean, how could he steal your berries? Remember, he and his dad are gone for the weekend hiking Mount Katahdin." "Then who stole them?" Acadia asks as she sets down an old piece of wood. "Why don't you approach this like a scientist and figure out who would eat your berries?" "What do you mean?" "Use the scientific method." Acadia makes a face. "Why do both of my parents have to be science teachers?" Acadia's mom guides her back toward the bushes and says, "You have a question, so let's see if you can figure out the answer." "What do you mean, use the scientific method?" "It's an organized way of answering a question or explaining why something happens. You already have a problem you want to solve, so next do some research. Then you come up with a hypothesis, and after that sounds like a lot of work. I'm just going to paint a sign." "I'll give you a hint. Whoever it was that ate your berries can't read." "But there are no little kids in our neighborhood. I don't get it." "Sit back for a second and observe nature and come up with a hypothesis. It'll help you calm down." What's the word? Remember, I'm only 10. "A hypothesis is your best scientific explanation." "I still can't believe it wasn't Joshua," Acadia mumbles as she walks toward the backyard. She sits down, leans her hands back into the grass, and looks up at the far-spreading branches of the maple tree. Next she looks at a row of lilac bushes that are no longer in bloom, then at the beach towels hanging on the clothesline, and finally at her mom's vegetable garden. She mutters, "I have no idea." And then Acadia hears a sound echo through the warm morning air, chickadee-dee, chickadee-dee, and watches a tiny bird fly back and forth between the lilac bushes and the big maple tree. As another round of chickadee begins, the final D sets off an alarm in her mind. Birds! It was the birds! She runs to her mom. I think it was the birds. That's a good idea. The birds have probably been watching those bushes even more closely than you have. I'm going to guess they woke up early this morning with the same plan that you had, but they beat you to it. I can't believe it was the birds, Acadia says as she looks up at the sky. Now that you have a hypothesis, how can you test it to see if it's true? I could cover the berries so the birds can't get to them. If the berries keep growing, that would mean it was the birds. What would you cover them with? A tarp? Acadia pictures what the green bushes would look like covered in a big blue tarp. No, not a tarp. The bushes need sun and water. Keep thinking. What don't birds like? They don't like Baxter, but I'm not going to tie him up out there. That would be mean. Acadia looks into the garage. She sees the workbench, 2 rakes, bikes, a sled, and sports equipment. She walks over to the sports equipment and yells to her mom, who's picking flowers. What if I cover them with my soccer goal? It's a net so sun and water could go through, but I don't think the birds would be able to get to the berries. That's good thinking. Acadia walks toward the bushes, holding the soccer net over her head, but pauses until her mom looks up. I have a better idea. I'm going to cover 3 bushes, but not the 4th. If the bushes under the net have more berries after a week or 2 than the bush that isn't covered, then I'll know for sure that the net made the difference. You just designed an experiment. You're making one change to see if there's a cause and effect. Now you'll know if your hypothesis is true. But is it okay that birds will probably take berries from that one bush? It wouldn't be okay if it was Joshua, but I'm okay sharing with the birds. After all, now that the birds have tasted my delicious blueberries, it's only fair to let them have a little more. And you know what? I'm going to write about all of this in the notebook you gave me at the start of summer. Great idea. Pancakes are ready, Acadia's dad hollers from the screen door. Acadia drops the soccer goal and races her mom to the warm chocolatey stack of pancakes waiting for them on the kitchen table. After breakfast, she covers 3 blueberry bushes with the soccer net, and then she opens her notebook and creates an illustrated Acadia Science Notebook title page. She records her observations 3, 6, and 9 days later. And when the experiment is done, she fills in the next few pages. And then we have the start of Acadia's Science Notebook, her drawing of the scientific method and the steps that go with it, and then her process of thinking about the experiment's question, and then her data for the experiment, and her conclusion. She said, I think birds ate the blueberries. The bush without a net around it has the least blueberries. The 3 bushes with the net around them have more, but still not a lot. Birds like to sit on the soccer net. I think the net's holes are too big. Birds can still get to some of the berries. And then every chapter has new science words. So for this one, it's scientific method, hypothesis, evidence, and conclusion. And then every chapter ends with things I still wonder. Does the shape of a bird's beak determine if it eats berries? Do blueberries taste the same to birds as they do to me? Are all animal taste buds the same? What else could keep the birds away besides a net? Maybe a recording of Baxter barking, or a stuffed animal of a creature that eats birds, like an owl. And then it moves on to the next chapter.